And next up, we are thrilled to have our longtime Eventbrite client, Evan Weiss, with us today. Evan created the Bloody Mary Festival in 2014 to determine the best Bloody Mary in Brooklyn. The event now takes place in 10 cities around the country and is the largest Bloody Mary festival in the world. Each event brings together bars, restaurants, and bottled mixes, making the best Bloody Mary in each city. Please welcome Evan Weiss.
Thanks, Rudy. Hey, everyone at home or at work, at home. I'm super excited to speak with you today on this platform. We've been using Eventbrite as our ticketing platform since our very first event in 2014, so it really is quite an honor to be speaking today. My partner and I started the Bloody Mary Festival back in 2014. The way the event works is we go to a city, we find the bars and restaurants that are making the best Bloody Marys in town, and we bring them all together for one special day to serve up mini-sized versions of their cocktail to all the attendees. And the attendees get the chance to taste them all, vote for their favorite, and then help crown the best Bloody Mary in that city, New York City or Austin or Milwaukee or whatever city we're in. And of course, there's music and games, and we even have a dancing tomato mascot that you can get a photo with. When we started the event, my partner and I, we were working in the corporate world, totally unrelated to the event industry. We had no production experience other than we'd been attending events for years, like beer festivals and music festivals and Burning Man festivals. But we knew that if we were going to produce an event ourselves, we knew that we wanted it to be produced in a way that we ourselves would want to attend the event. So event logistics are and always have been very, very important to us. So every detail is thought out, it's discussed, and it's well planned, and hopefully it's well executed. I could do a whole other talk about how we grew this event from a passion project side hustle to now taking place in like 10 cities around the US with a crowd size of between 1,000 and 2,000 attendees. It's quite inspiring, frankly, especially for a husband and wife team. And there we are, look at those cuties, with just one other full-time employee. But I think that will be for a different day and a different talk. So in 2016, my wife and I left our corporate jobs to work full-time on the Bloody Mary Festival. Like I said, we had no professional experience as event organizers. So as you can imagine, in the first few years, and even right up until today, many, many mistakes were made. So today I'm going to tell you about just 3 of the mistakes along the way. And I'm also going to tell you about how we responded to each situation. 3 mistakes we made and learned from. Number 1, inadequate procedures for getting attendees in quickly. Number 2, we branched out to events outside of our expertise. Number 3, merchandise t-shirts. Mistake number 1. Okay, in the early days of the event, we were finding that it took us far too long to check in attendees into the event at the front gate, at the check-in desk. The process that we had in place at the time involved having most of our relatively small staff, 3 or 4 people, work the check-in desk. Our event session time is only 3 hours long, so we were finding that many of our attendees started lining up before the event start time or right at event start time, which was creating a huge bottleneck at the check-in desk. As you can imagine, we're talking almost 1,000 employees. It was taking 30 minutes plus for attendees to make it inside of the event. And this was really unacceptable to us. So what did we do? First, we created a VIP early admission ticket that allowed these ticket holders to enter the event 45 minutes earlier than the general admission ticket holder. We allocated around 35% of the total tickets used to be early admission. So right there, we eliminated 35% of the problem, and we were able to charge a little bit more for these early admission tickets. So right there, winning. Second, we brought on volunteers to work with us for a short time during the event to assist with check-in, and in exchange, they got free admission to the event. So now we went from having 4 or 5 people at the check-in to having 10 or 12 people at the check-in. Awesome. Finally, now that we had the bandwidth, we were able to even start checking people's IDs and tickets while they were still in line, so that when the doors open, pretty much most, if not all of the line could pretty much proceed on in, straight on in. Now we have such a smooth check-in process. hundreds of people can enter the event the minute that the event starts. And it's a pretty good feeling as an event organizer to see the doors open, hundreds of Bloody Mary lovers with huge smiles on their faces, ready to have a good time, come rushing into the event, and then to think back of where this process was just a couple years ago. Okay, second mistake. Second mistake we made, by the end of our second year of producing the Bloody Mary Festival, we had successfully produced the event around the country in different cities, probably 7 or 8 times. To be honest, looking back, I think we got overly confident. We felt like we figured it out, like we cracked the code on event producing. Curated food and drink events and experiences were blowing up, and I think we felt that we could just do anything. So we brainstormed on what new event didn't exist, but needed to exist. So we love Bloody Marys, we love oysters. We came up with the Bloody Mary and Oyster Feast right here in New York City. And we decided it was going to be so popular and so huge that it would need to be a 2-day event, something we hadn't done before, a 2-day event. Since I'm here talking about mistakes, it's safe to assume that the event was a flop. From a business perspective, we did sell hundreds of tickets, and those folks that did attend enjoyed some great lobsters and, of course, great Bloody Marys, and it was a solid event. But it didn't work from a business perspective. Whoop. Get back here. Okay. There were several reasons why it didn't work. Primarily, we created an event that there just wasn't demand for. So the key takeaway for us was really focus on our mission, which from the start was always about Bloody Marys and creating the Bloody Mary lovers' perfect experience, perfect event. So we stuck with that. We focused our time and energy and resources into scaling the event up, finding new sponsors and partners to work with, and expanding the event into different cities and markets. So since that Bloody Mary and Oyster Feast learning experience, we haven't deviated from the Bloody Mary Festival. We've gone on to produce probably 40 or more than 40 Bloody Mary festivals since then around the country. Now, if you go onto our website, thebloodymaryfest.com, you might say, Evan, wait a second, you're selling a Bloody Mary home kit, but yet you told us that you haven't deviated from your plan. Okay, so in 2020, during COVID and the quarantine, there was a real shift in people's entertainment needs, and of course, people were doing things at home. So we pivoted and we created a virtual Bloody Mary festival and this Bloody Mary home kit. So this was more of a pivot, and we felt that we were responding to a real shift in the market and answering the consumer's needs. By the way, this Bloody Mary home kit makes a great gift for the holidays. Shameless plug. Sorry, Eventbrite. Okay, the third mistake we made was that we got into selling t-shirts at our events. Early on, some attendees began asking us if we sold t-shirts at the event, which we didn't. So finally, we decided to start selling them. And we had so much fun creating the Bloody Mary graphics for the t-shirts that we ended up with 4 or 5 different designs that we went with. So we had about 4 or 5 different t-shirt options. And of course, we had to offer them in both men's and women's t-shirt types. Being a national event, we quickly learned that in some parts of the country, you can't make t-shirts small enough. We had attendees asking for small, extra small, extra, extra small. And in some parts of the country, you can't make shirts big enough. We had attendees asking for extra large, double extra large, and even bigger. So we had to carry a huge inventory of t-shirts, which cost money to store and to ship from event to event, etc. So in retrospect, what did we learn? The main problem was really that we had too many designs, and of course we were carrying too many t-shirts. We've since moved on to selling smaller merchandise like enamel pins and magnets, smaller stuff that attendees can still purchase and leave the event with a keepsake to kind of complete their experience for them. And it's much, much easier for us and much more practical for us. Make your mistakes work for you by learning from them. Those mistakes might sting at first, but then you must reframe your mistake as an opportunity to learn and grow. Many of the mistakes that we made were visible to us immediately, and many were not. So I would be remiss if I was here talking about mistakes and I didn't mention the importance of having open lines of communication with your attendees, whether it's through like a post-event survey or something like that, where you can capture their feedback about your event immediately. So those were just a few of the mistakes that we've made along the way. I hope you found at least one of them interesting or relevant to your event. I love connecting with other event folks, so feel free to email me, Evan at the Bloody Mary Fest. Thank you, Eventbrite. Thank you, Rudy.